All right, welcome back to the channel. Canelo Alvarez, the $360 million slave. A provision in his contract might keep him chained to Dazn and Golden Boy Promotions. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So, if you guys know on this channel, if you've been around this channel for a long time, I am an advocate for the proper treatment of black fighters. I've been saying that for maybe the last month, 2 months, and I've been behaving in that fashion, and I will continue to behave in that fashion for the remainder of my involvement in the sport of boxing. Because I see systematic mistreatment of black fighters by the WBC, by promoters, and by networks. And it is something, as a fan of the sport of boxing, knowing the contributions that black American fighters have made to the sports over the last 200 years, I think that is deplorable. So I will be an advocate against that. In order to be that, gotta call it like it is. It's not only happening to black American fighters. And as I watch this Canelo Alvarez saga play out with Dazn, I see the same thing being played out, but on a larger scale. So when I say that Canelo Alvarez, when I call him a $360 million slave because of this provision in his contract, I will explain what I mean by that. And how Canelo Alvarez, like many other fighters, was pencil whipped out of his rights that he deserves. Pencil whipped, convinced ahead of time to relinquish his rights, probably without even knowing that that's what he was doing. And let's talk about it. I read Dazn's response to Canelo Alvarez in federal court in California. And it all hinges on what is called an arbitration clause. You will hear this. That is legalese for this. You have no rights in a court of law. You do not have the right to have your grievances heard in a court of law because you said you would not do that. You agreed not to go to court. The only time that I see people interested in arbitration clauses is when they believe that there is a significant likelihood that you are going to sue them so that they can determine exactly where your grievance is heard. Do you go to a federal court in California, or must you go to the California State Athletic Commission where there are a bunch of political appointees that will then make the decision between you and a promoter that is consistently paying them money? Where your likelihood of success shrinks dramatically. That is why there's an arbitration clause in his contract, in my opinion. That is why I would put one there. Because I figure, hey, man, you know, I might be trying to be slick here. There's a chance that we really might get into some issues here. I don't want to have to go through the expense of going to court, number one, because that's how they'll sell it to you. It saves money, right? We don't have to go through our lawyers and go all through this. We can just sit together with a mediator, and the mediator will be fair and impartial, and they'll go by the international rules of arbitration rules, and we can, dude, all of that stuff is messy. Go to court. And what you see with Canelo Alvarez is this. Right now, if the court rules in favor of Dazn on this arbitration, they will take Canelo Alvarez's stuff out of court, where they would be looking at it based on the common law, statutes, you know, the proper reading of a contract, you know, people that are experienced in it, versus taking you over to a bunch of politically paid hacks that where the fix is in. And if you don't believe me, look carefully enough at the relationship, or excuse me, the 2 years or so that Andre Ward had to sit out of boxing because he was having a beef with Joe Goosen. And that whole thing didn't hinge around, first of all, it wasn't even about Andre Ward and Joe Goosen. It was about James Prince, much respect. James Prince, a business partner of James Prince in Houston, much respect. And the fact that Joe Goosen was trying to cut this dude out of the deal. He agreed because they signed when they were at HBO with Showtime. And when they switched over to HBO, Dan Goosen tried to cut this other promoter out of the deal. And that was the promoter that had taken over the portion that was originally taken, or a spot that was originally taken by Roy Jones Jr., who had originally signed Andre Ward to Square Ring Productions. So it was really Joe Goosen trying to cut out the promoter that was taking the place of Roy Jones Jr. And in order to make that legitimate, they were saying, oh, it has to go to the Nevada State Athletic Commission. And of course, what does the California State Athletic Commission do? They're going to find in favor of the politically connected Goosen Promotions. Like they knew they would when they put it in the arbitration clause. So how did they get out of it? Smart move by James Prince or whoever was involved. I don't know who was involved. I should say that I should remain consistent. But they shifted it to federal court. And where is the federal court? The federal court is in Texas. And guess what? The second that they successfully got that to a federal court and the federal court agreed to hear it, Goosen and those guys dropped it and ran away. They dropped it and ran away. If this court, California federal court, whatever, if they find against Dazn, I promise you Dazn is going to drop that right away. Because breach of contract and all that other stuff that they're talking about, dude, you can see that on his face, in my opinion. But guess what? Canelo Alvarez doesn't even get that because they're arguing, look, dude, we know we broke the law, but he agreed to not even come here and talk to you. Judge, look, he can't even talk to you. He agreed he wouldn't talk to you because you can sign away your rights. It is possible to sign away your rights. And when you put it in a contract, you can sign away your rights because you voluntarily did so in exchange for something else, which is why you should always have independent counsel, independent auditors, independent, not somebody telling you, a manager telling you, sign this, let me tell you what this means. So here Canelo Alvarez sits. Here boxing sits with one of the best fights that could possibly be made available with the PBC and Canelo Alvarez, which is the Jamal Charlo fight that, trust me, everybody in boxing wants except Dazn, except Golden Boy, except Top Rank, except Matchroom. Because when the PBC's product becomes exemplary, they will not be able to compete. So what are they going to do? They're going to try to lock Canelo down and prevent Canelo from taking Canelo's worth and going over there to the PBC and fighting. That's what it is. It is a chain around him that is going to prevent him from exercising his legal rights because he agreed to it. That's why I say $360 million slave, because you have signed off your rights. You signed away your rights to go to a court of law in exchange for money. But here's the thing. I won't get into what they're arguing, but they're even saying that the arbitration clause that applies for Canelo and Oscar doesn't even apply anymore. It's the Dazn arbitration clause that counts because he's a beneficiary of their contract. A contract, by the way, that he is arguing that they acquired in a fraudulent manner. So, dude, keep an eye on Canelo and hope he wins this case. But if he doesn't, understand why. More than likely, it's because he signed his rights away a long time ago. And they knew this problem was going to happen. And when he signed that arbitration clause, it looked like this. He signed it. We're good. That's what's going on with Canelo. If you don't agree with me, whatever, I don't care. Nah, for real. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. That's my opinion on the matter. And with that, I'm out. Peace.